starting with 1 million luck points. Chapter 381, Fight to the Death. Although the two of them were relying mostly on their courage to break out of the encirclement, they still had a plan. The two of them had some chemistry and were efficient when they fought. The Ashwolf King was blasted until it saw stars. Not only was it hit by the laser missile, but its entire body was also numb from the paralysis missile. When it turned around, it realized that most of its underlings had been killed. Immediately, the Ashwolf King roared in anger. Blue flames rose from its body like a ghost in the night, even terrifying. This was the bloodline power of the Ashwolf King. Once it stepped into the Grandmaster level, it would awaken this talent and become extremely fast. Moreover, with the support of this blue nether flame, its destructive power was also very shocking. Although it was only the size of an elephant and was far inferior to the size of the white ice fur bear and the bloodthirsty berserk python, its destructive power far surpassed these two mutated beasts. The only drawback was that it did not have much strength and its resistance to attacks was weak. In a competition of strength, it would naturally be inferior to the white ice fur bear and the bloodthirsty berserk python. However, in terms of speed and destructive power, the two of them were simply no match for the Ashwolf King. At this moment, its entire body surged with blue flames as it roared repeatedly. The muscles on its body also became corporeal. It ignored the effects of the paralyzing missiles and the laser missiles. Instead, its body turned into a blue light that directly pounced towards Fang Yu and Yun Yan. Fang Yu and Yun Yan had long sensed it when it moved. The two of them thought to themselves that something was wrong. They also knew that they were far from being its match. However, the two of them quickly calmed down. Fang Yu shouted and the flames on her body immediately erupted. A sea of flames instantly appeared within 10 meters of Fang Yun. The might of this sea of flames was very powerful, and the surrounding beasts were instantly burned to death. It had to be known that these were all master-level beasts. Although their movements had been affected, they were still superior to ordinary human masters. Moreover, she had used her strongest spell technique and actually managed to burn so many mutated beasts at once. It was very impressive. Yun Yan did not show any weakness. Her physical strength exploded, and her armor even condensed a faint white color. This was the unique aura of the Overlord body. Under this force, Yun Yan's speed was very fast and her destructive power was also extremely powerful. With a punch, she directly turned the wolf beasts into a bloody mist. She was very cruel. The two of them knew that the valley was not far away. As long as they got out, they would have a chance. Therefore, they risked their lives and used their full strength. Bai Linglong, who had been paying attention here, also nodded secretly. Although their strength was very weak compared to the other teams, it had to be said that the two of them had some tacit understanding. Moreover, their cultivation levels were not bad. Since they were fighting so desperately, their potential naturally exploded. Fang Yu's Starfire Burning Plains cultivation technique is not considered authentic. However, with her talent, she might be able to cultivate the Red Lotus Karmic Flame. Yun Yan's Overlord body is indeed a good cultivation technique. Although it's suitable for girls, for her to be able to cultivate this cultivation technique to this extent shows how much effort she has put in. However, the Overlord body cultivation technique is still not considered a supernatural cultivation technique. That purgatory body art is indeed more suitable for her. Looking at the battle between the two of them, Bai Linglong had even thought of their future path. However, whether or not you can get out of here depends on your ability. Bai Linglong smiled and paid close attention. On the other side, Zhou Hao and Su Ling were flying quickly on the Flying Goo Insect King. The Flying Goo Insect King was a Grand Master level existence and could be considered to be quite impressive in the 13th Spatial Rift. With it leading the way, it would be much less troublesome. At the very least, the other Grand Master level beasts did not jump out to stop it. This saved Zhou Hao and Su Ling a lot of trouble. Otherwise, even if they knew the whereabouts of Fang Yu and Yun Yan, the two of them would probably have to overcome many obstacles to arrive in front of Fang Yu and Yun Yan. The two of them were fine with fighting, but they did not know if Fang Yu and Yun Yan could afford to wait. Just as Zhou Hao and the others were hurrying along, only Yuan Cheng was living the most carefree life. He was wearing a thruster and holding a laser gun. In addition, he had a master-level cultivation and adhered to the strategy of not provoking the strong and running if he could not defeat them. He was not in any danger. Instead, he was the safest among them. In comparison, Zhang Yi was in a much more sorry state. Dozens of master-level beasts were lying in front of him, and he was leaning on the side, breathing heavily. Blood and sweat were mixed together, and he could no longer tell what was real. Damn, luckily, I have a tough life. Otherwise, I would have really been killed by these bastards. Zhang Yi revealed a tenacious expression. Although he was very tired at this moment, his eyes revealed excitement. After all, with his talent, it was not easy for him to become a master. He did not have a background or heaven-defying luck like Zhou Hao. All he had was hard work. He did not have any profound cultivation techniques and only cultivated day after day. However, the heavens rewarded the diligent. Not a single drop of sweat was wasted. At this moment, his cultivation level was not the strongest, but his combat strength was the highest among the six of them. Other than Zhou Hao and Su Ling, he was the strongest. Zhang Yi was holding a battle axe in his hand and even his blade had been broken. It could be seen how heroic the battle just now was. Although it was difficult, I still accumulated a lot of points. Zhang Yi looked at the points and saw that there were already hundreds of them. He was very happy. I wonder how they are doing. I'll replenish my supplies and then go look for them. With Zhou Hao leading the way, the few of us will definitely be able to last until the end. Zhang Yi took a deep breath, took out his supply equipment, and began to treat his injuries. On the other side, Yun Yan and Fang Yu were in a sorry state. The two of them had already escaped from the valley, but the Ashwolf King was chasing closely. It was so fast that it was about to catch up. Fang Yu and Yun Yan were very anxious and were prepared to use the teleportation device. Once they were in danger, they would definitely not hesitate to turn on the switch and leave. However, they still did not want to do so until the last moment. If we run like this, we definitely won't be able to escape. Let's give it our all. If we still can't deal with them, we'll leave. All right. The two girls reached an agreement and stopped escaping. Fang Yu's body was covered in flames as a huge fireball condensed in her hands. Starfire burning plains. She shouted and used her strongest technique. As for Yun Yan, she directly took a deep breath. The domineering power around her condensed, forming a huge fist in front of her. Overlord Body Fist. This was also Yun Yan's strongest technique. Whether or not she could deal with the Ashwolf King would be decided at this moment. The two of them did not hesitate and directly attacked that Ashwolf King. A teasing look flashed in the Ashwolf King's eyes, and it did not care at all. However, in the next second, its eyes were filled with fear. It looked up and saw a sharp saber beam coming from the sky. Immediately, it was filled with despair. Chapter 382, Sparring. After Yun Yan and Fang Yu used their ultimate techniques, they were also nervous. The two of them knew very well where their limits were. Therefore, they also knew that with this ability, they were simply unable to kill the Ashwolf King. The two of them did not immediately trigger the teleportation formation because they hoped for a miracle to happen. Although it was not logical to hope for a miracle, humans were still like this. They would not give up until all hope was lost. A loud bang sounded directly, and a storm made the two of them retreat involuntarily. They had expected their ultimate techniques to have such destructive power. Unfortunately, this was still not enough to kill the Ashwolf King. However, in the next second, the explosion stopped. The two of them could no longer sense the movement of the Ashwolf King. What happened? Did it escape? Or is it dead? Yunyan asked uncertainly. It's definitely not dead. Our attacks only injured it a little. If I had to guess, it probably ran away after not moving for so long. Fang Yu still knew her limits and analyzed. The smoke slowly dissipated. The two of them stared at the huge shadow in the smoke. Seeing the Ashwolf King's shadow, the two of them subconsciously took a step back, worried that this bastard would suddenly attack. However, as the smoke also decreased, the scene in front of them became clearer and clearer. Finally, after seeing the Ashwolf King's lifeless body, they immediately became shocked. Dead. Ah! It's really dead. Yunyan and Fang Yu were shocked. The two of them looked at each other in disbelief. How did it die? Did our strength increase? Fang Yu said uncertainly. Of course. My overlord body is very powerful. It probably has nothing to do with you. I was the one who killed him. Yunyan said shamelessly. You really have no shame. If it was killed by one of us, then it would have been because of my starfire burning planes. Stop being smug. Fang Yu snorted as she retorted. It's definitely me. Your starfire burning planes is no match for my overlord body. Yunyan was also unconvinced. Nonsense. Why don't we spar? Fang Yu was immediately furious. Fine, let's spar. I'm not afraid of you. Yunyan also rolled up her sleeves. In the sky, Zhou Hao and Su Ling, the flying goo insect king, immediately had helpless expressions when they saw this. In the last moment just now, Zhou Hao had used his Shadow 7 sabers to directly kill this Ashwolf king. Yunyan and Fang Yu's techniques contributed slightly, but they were basically insignificant. However, these two shameless people actually fought because of this matter. Zhou Hao really did not expect this. Hey, don't you two have any shame? I was clearly the one who killed this Ashwolf king, but you two are actually fighting for credit. At this moment, Zhou Hao could not help but speak. His voice was not loud, but it landed in the ears of the two people below who were rubbing their fists. The two of them were about to fight and exchange blows when they heard this voice. They were shocked and subconsciously looked up. Immediately, they saw that another Grand Master level beast had appeared in the sky. They immediately cried out. Another Grand Master level beast? No, that's not right. I clearly heard Zhou Hao's voice. Yunyan and Fang Yu blurted out as their faces turned pale. Seeing them like this, Zhou Hao looked at Su Ling and immediately smiled. He waved his hand. Hey, we're over here. Zhou Hao waved his hand and got the flying goo insect king to land. After the two of them saw Zhou Hao and Su Ling, their eyes widened even more. They looked at the flying goo insect king in disbelief and were very shocked. You. The two of them did not know what to say. Seeing your shocked expression, I know what you want to ask. This mutated beast was tamed by us. Just now, I was also the one who killed the Ashwolf king with a single slash. Mrs., are there any more questions this time? Zhou Hao looked at their shocked expressions and found it somewhat funny. Su Ling rolled her eyes at her and hurriedly got off the flying goo insect king and ran over. How are the two of you? Are you seriously injured? Su Ling asked anxiously. Only then did Yunyan and Fang Yu return to their senses. After seeing Su Ling and Zhou Hao, they were completely relieved. So it's really you guys. Ha, you really scared me. Don't worry, we're fine. However, you have to answer us first. Did you really tame this beast? Yunyan hurriedly waved her hand, still not believing Zhou Hao. It wasn't us. He tamed it himself and also used the flying goo insect king. Zhou Hao found me before he found you guys, Su Ling explained. Hearing this, Yunyan and Fang Yu finally believed it, but they were still somewhat shocked. Zhou Hao, I didn't expect you to be so powerful all of a sudden. You can even control mutated beasts. Teach me. How did you do it? Fang Yu blinked her eyes curiously. The main reason was that this mount was too flashy. Just its size alone made it very impressive to look at. It's very simple. You can tame it as long as you can defeat it. Zhou Hao chuckled. Fang Yu and Yun Yan immediately rolled their eyes at him. This guy was making them more and more speechless. Alright, since you're not injured, let's go find Zhang Yi. He's injured. Zhou Hao hurriedly said. This was not the time to joke. Zhou Hao had just learned from the flying goo worms that Zhang Yi had undergone an especially tragic battle. Although his life was not in danger, he was still severely injured. If he encountered another Grand Master level beast, he would definitely die. Of course, it was still impossible for him to die. After all, with the spatial transfer device, it was still extremely easy for him to teleport out. Hearing this, Yun Yan and Fang Yu also stopped fooling around. The four of them hurriedly rode the flying goo insect king towards Zhang Yi. Bai Linglong had seen all of this and was rather shocked. This Zhou Hao is really impressive. He killed the ashwolf king in one move. Although the ashwolf king's defense is very low, it's still not something an ordinary grandmaster can instantly kill. I really don't know how President Zhou raised such a small monster. Oh, right, President Zhou is also a monster himself. Bai Linglong shook her head and stopped looking at Zhou Hao and the others. Instead, she looked at the other teams and frowned slightly. The other teams don't seem to be as relaxed as Zhou Hao and the others. Although El Uzimo and the other Grandmasters are very powerful and can kill Grandmaster level beasts independently, the others won't have it easy. Bai Linglong saw that many members of the other teams were already injured and sighed. Chapter 383, Training. Bai Linglong was naturally worried. After all, many of them did not have the ability to survive independently in the 13th spatial rift. Even those Grandmasters were the same. To be honest, their combat strength was really inferior to Zhou Hao. They were only as strong as Su Ling and were not much stronger. This also shocked Bai Linglong. She thought to herself that Zhou Hao was really a genius. However, she still wanted to give the credit to President Zhou. This made her even more curious about President Zhou. This person, what is his background? And why does he have a Genesis rune? Did he really destroy all the martial artist demons like what the records described? Bai Linglong did not believe it. After all, she had not interacted with him much, but she was still aware of what kind of person President Zhou was. If such a person was a threat to humans, then how could there be good people left in the world? I hope President Zhou won't. Bai Linglong sighed and looked at the communication device. President Zhou's equipment had long been offline, and the message she sent had also disappeared. This made her even more worried. Where will he go? On the other side, Zhou Hao, Su Ling, and the others rode the flying goo insect king and quickly found Zhang Yi. This guy was just as shocked as they were. However, although he was shocked, he quickly understood. After all, he knew how powerful Zhou Hao was. Zhou Hao hurriedly took out a rare level energy bar and got Zhang Yi to replenish his energy. After that, they also looked for Yuan Cheng. This guy was really cunning. With the help of the thruster, he hid on a big tree and made Zhou Hao and the others search for him for a long time. Damn, Zhou Hao, you guys are too impressive. This mount is simply too flashy. Wouldn't it be very easy to escape if we had this to help us? These were Yuan Cheng's first words after meeting up with the group. This guy was really willing to do anything to escape. His every thought was about escaping. It was also because of this thought that he could remain unscathed all this time. Although Zhou Hao was the same, he was still far inferior to Yuan Cheng in this aspect. We've already gathered. What should we do next? At this moment, Yuan Cheng couldn't help but ask. Zhou Hao had also thought of this problem. Now, the six of them had already gathered together. In the 13th spatial rift, they would undoubtedly survive. Next, they would have to accumulate points. We can use our advantage to kill those mutated beasts in exchange for points. I think our team will still be ranked at the top this time. Zhou Hao immediately suggested, as did the others. Zhou Hao got them to adjust their states while he checked his backpack alone. With a look, he was shocked. Most of the densely packed essence energy ancestral stones had been consumed at this moment, and the 1,000 feather armor had also been completely repaired. Reporting to Master, Little Yu has already been repaired. Little Yu's childlike voice sounded in Zhou Hao's mind. Very good. Zhou Hao was very excited, but in order to prevent himself from being exposed, he suppressed the urge to immediately give it a try. Although he said this, Zhou Hao was still anxious. However, he could only wait for a few days and leave when the time was up. At this moment, Liu Zimo of the first team was panting. He had also done his best to kill a Grand Master level beast. Damn it, this is too difficult. If not for my Grand Master level cultivation, I would have been eliminated long ago. Liu Zimo took a deep breath and hid in a place. The first place this time will definitely be mine. This 13th spatial rift is so huge. It'll probably be very difficult for the people of Team 7 to work together. Perhaps someone from Team 7 will have been eliminated long ago. Liu Zimo smiled. It was his shame that he did not get first place last time. This time, he had to wash away his humiliation. Other than him, Cao Gongren and Wu Dong from Team 2, Dong Ran and Han Bing from Team 3, Zhou Gongjian and Liu Ziming from Team 4, Feng Xiaotian and Chen Yan from Team 5, and Li Tianyi from Team 6 all thought the same. What they wanted to do was to get first place. However, they did not know that Zhou Hao and the others had long gathered. The 6 of them split up and began to kill the mutated beasts. Instructor Bai brought us to the 13th spatial rift to train, so we can't come for nothing. Last time, we worked together as a team. Although this time, we will still be working together as a team, what we have to do this time is train ourselves. There are many mutated beasts in the 13th spatial rift. After we see them, don't be greedy and challenge what you can't resolve by yourself, understand? At this moment, Zhou Hao was really like a team leader as he began to command the team. The others also believed Zhou Hao and his words. Since there's no problem, it's time for us to hunt. Zhou Hao smiled and directly got the Flying Goo Insect King to start searching for those mutated beasts. It was best if there were no more than 2 Grand Master level beast groups. Although he was not afraid, he could not expose his strength. If they were surrounded by them, wouldn't it mean that Zhou Hao would need to save them? If he attacked, Bai Linglong would definitely know. However, what if he didn't save them? Although their lives were not in danger, they would still be eliminated. This was something Zhou Hao did not want to see. Soon, the Flying Goo Insect King sent a message. It had to be said that with this Flying Goo Insect King in the 13th spatial rift, everything had become much easier. They directly flew past a valley and saw a group of poison scorpion beasts. The poison scorpion beasts' poison was very strong, and their tails were very sharp. Even a master level poison scorpion beast's tails could cause danger to a grand master level beast. Zhou Hao nodded when he saw this group of poison scorpion beasts. They don't have a Grand Master level beast. They're quite suitable for us to train. Zhou Hao was very satisfied. He looked at everyone and said directly. Then let's do it. Zhang Yi immediately rubbed his fists. Yes, but we still have to take care of each other at all times. Our goal is to train, not to fight to the death. Thus, we need to first ensure our safety. Do you understand? Understood. Then let's begin. As soon as he finished speaking, the 6 of them got off the Flying Goo Insect King and charged towards the Poison Scorpion Beast group. These Poison Scorpion Beasts did not have a Grand Master holding down the fort. Moreover, Su Ling and the others' combat strength had also improved rapidly over the past few days. With a hidden big shot like Zhou Hao holding down the fort, there were no problems at all. They directly dealt with these poison scorpion beasts. Bai Linglong smiled and thought to herself that this Team 7 was really interesting. She was the one who had sent them into the 13th spatial rift to let them experience the battlefield. In the end, however, they were able to control the situation and even pick their own enemies to fight. Moreover, their training also seemed to be going well. Chapter 384, Disgust. This group of poison scorpion beasts was quickly dealt with. Their points also increased by a lot, making them very satisfied. They continued to search for the next target. But at this moment, Zhou Hao and the others heard the sound of fighting not far away. The noise was loud, and they were immediately stunned. Zhou Hao hurriedly got the flying goo insect king to check. Only then did he know that it was Cao Gongren from the second team and Dong Ran from the third team. The two Grandmaster level experts had encountered two equally powerful mutated beasts here. A tiger-head crocodile and a lightning cheetah. These two mutated beasts were both at the Grandmaster level, and they were both at the peak Grandmaster level. Cao Gongren and Dong Ran were fighting one each. It was a heated battle. It had to be said that these two were really extraordinary. Although they were Grandmasters, Zhou Hao felt that their combat strength was close to that of a first-grade supernatural expert. The two mutated beasts were evenly matched with them. The strength of our Team 7 is still far inferior to theirs. Su Ling couldn't help but say when she saw this. That's true. Cao Gongren and Dong Ran are both rare geniuses. I heard about them when I was in Yanjing. One of them is from the Central Plains and the other is from the ancient city. They're both descendants of martial arts families and have outstanding talent. They're really impressive. At this moment, Yunyan also spoke. However, when she looked at Cao Gongren, her eyes indeed flashed with coldness and disgust. Zhou Hao noticed this expression immediately and could not help but smile. What? Is your family in conflict with his family? Other than this reason, Zhou Hao couldn't think of any other reason why Yunyan hated them. I've only heard of Dong Ran's name, but I know too much about Cao Gongren. This Cao Gongren is a hypocrite. Yunyan snorted coldly, feeling very disdainful. Zhou Hao blinked and sensed something strange. All right, stop asking around. Let's go. I can't be bothered to look at him. Yunyan seemed to hate Cao Gongren. However, Zhou Hao did not want to leave like this. Although he was not familiar with them and they did not think much of Team 7, Zhou Hao was still worried that something would happen to the two of them. Although the battlefield seemed to be in a stalemate, Zhou Hao knew that the physical strength of the mutated beasts was extraordinary, and the physical strength of the humans was not that endless. They were evenly matched right now, but soon, the scales of victory would tip over and the mutated beasts would gain the upper hand. This was undoubtedly their innate advantage. Indeed, as Zhou Hao expected, these two people began to show signs of exhaustion and were also suppressed by the two mutated beasts. In fact, Cao Gongren even seemed a little discouraged. He could only resist with all his might and was unable to counterattack. If they were to just leave, the two of them would definitely end up having to use the teleportation formation and leave. However, Zhou Hao felt that since he had come here, the points were not important at all. What was important was training. Bai Linglong did this to encourage them and set goals for them. After all, only with goals would there be motivation. If not for the points system, they would have stayed hidden the entire time. After all, they would still be able to receive the rewards. The main reason why Bai Linglong added the points system was because she hoped that they could really fight the mutated beasts and seek a breakthrough. Seeing that they were no match, Zhou Hao took a deep breath. If we don't help them, the two of them will be eliminated at the very least. It's not easy for them to come this time. Forget it, let's help them. As he spoke, Zhou Hao led the others and rushed down. This scene was immediately seen by Cao Gongren and Dong Ran. They were still very shocked. Why had the six of them gathered again? However, in the next second, Zhou Hao, Su Ling, and the others directly attacked. With the six of them joining the battle, the result was naturally obvious. In addition, Su Ling and Zhou Hao's combat strength was not inferior to theirs. The mutated beasts were instantly at a disadvantage. Zhou Hao used the Shadow 7 sabers and directly killed one of the mutated beasts. On the other side, Su Ling also activated her ice muscle and cooperated with Dong Ran to kill the other one. Seeing the two mutated beasts die, everyone's points increased a little. This points system was considered intelligent. As long as one participated in the killing, they would obtain points. Thank you. If not for you, I probably would have activated the teleportation. Dong Ran hurriedly smiled and looked at Zhou Hao, Su Ling, and the others. Your team is really very united. You can even find each other in the 13th spatial rift. It's really enviable. Instructor Bai said that he wanted us to learn from your team's cooperative spirit. Unfortunately, Sai. Dong Ran sighed. Team 3 was not united at all. All of them came from large family clans. Although Dong Ran was the same, it was impossible for him to command them. Even if he was a grandmaster. Dong Ran, you're also very powerful. You're actually not at a disadvantage when fighting the lightning cheetah alone. If not for the lack of blood essence in your body, I'm afraid it wouldn't be your match, Zhou Hao said with a smile. The lack of blood essence in its body is really our human race's weakness. In the end, the human race is still relatively weak. Only by working as a team can we resolve this problem. Zhou Hao, I really envy your team, Dong Ran said with a smile. What's there to be envious about? TCH, they're just a group of people who came to take advantage of us. I say, your Team 7 is really shameless. You actually killed my mutated beast without my permission. Aren't you guys being too shameless by doing this? At this moment, Cao Gongren could not help but say with disdain. With that said, Zhou Hao and the others' expressions changed, especially Yun Yan. Cao Gongren, you really have no shame, do you? If not for us, you would have long been defeated. Now, you're boasting shamelessly. How laughable. Yo, isn't this the self-respecting Miss Yun? You haven't been eliminated yet. Cao Gongren's eyes lit up when he saw Yun Yan and immediately said. Humph, do you think I'm a pushover? Yun Yan snorted. Miss Yun, the beloved daughter of the Yun family. Unfortunately, in order to treat your grandfather's injuries, your Yun family wanted to marry you to our Cao family but was refused. This matter also made it difficult for your Yun family to continue staying in the Central Plains, so you went to Yanjing. Miss Yun, I thought that you would be very powerful after going to Yanjing. After all, that's what you claimed back then. I didn't expect you to still be so weak now. You haven't even reached the master level. You're really embarrassing your Yun family. Cao Gongren had a despicable face, and his words immediately made Yun Yan's pretty face turn dark. Only then did Zhou Hao understand why Yun Yan hated this person. It was really because this person was too disgusting. Cao Gongren, watch your attitude. If you continue to slander the people of our Team 7, don't blame me for being impolite. Zhou Hao stepped forward and said coldly. Chapter 385, Duel. Zhou Hao's expression was very ugly. This Cao Gongren's was really distasteful. He naturally could not stand such slander to Yun Yan, so he directly stood up and said coldly. Yo, a hero saving a beauty? Your Team 7 is disgusting. I was talking about Yun Yan just now. What does that have to do with you? Could it be that this woman has something to do with you? Cao Gongren sneered and said directly. Zhou Hao frowned and thought to himself that this person was actually fearless when he spoke. He was simply shameless. Cao Gongren, I dare you to say that again. Do you believe that I'll kill you? Yun Yan was completely furious and shouted delicately. Su Ling, Fang Yu, and the others' expressions were also very ugly. This person was really too detestable. Kill me? I don't think you have the guts to. My Cao family is a large family clan in the human race. You guys are just martial artists without any background. What can you do? Don't think that just because you guys became elites of the elite team, you can be fearless. Let me tell you, if our Cao family wants to kill you, it will be as easy as lifting a finger. Cao Gongren was not afraid at all. Instead, he crossed his arms and looked at them. Also, you guys have to give me the points you got for killing this mutated beast just now. I was the one who was killing it, but you guys suddenly jumped out to take a share. You guys are too shameless. Give it to me immediately, or I won't be polite. Cao Gongren swept his gaze over them and couldn't be bothered to waste his breath as he said directly. In fact, he knew very well that if not for Zhou Hao and the others suddenly appearing, he would definitely not have been able to defeat this mutated beast and might have even been injured and eliminated in the end. However, he knew he could also twist the story with his words. You're really shameless. If not for us, do you really think you could stand here and talk to us? You would have been eliminated long ago. Yunyan immediately said. These words were true, but unfortunately, Cao Gongren would not admit it at all. *T. I'm a Grand Master. Which one of you can defeat me? How laughable. Stop talking nonsense and quickly hand over your points. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you. Cao Gongren looked fearless. Zhou Hao narrowed his eyes and looked at Cao Gongren. He said indifferently, all right, if you want these points, so be it. However, let's make a bet. If you win, I'll give it to you with no objections. Not only that, but I'll also give you all the points we've accumulated. However, if you lose, you have to apologize to Yunyan. Do you dare to accept my bet? After Zhou Hao finished speaking, Dongran was stunned for a moment. Wasn't it courting death for a master to challenge a grand master? Moreover, he was betting on the points of everyone in their team. Wasn't this asking for trouble? He wanted to say something to dissuade Zhou Hao, but he realized that the other members of Team 7 did not have any objections. They even had indifferent expressions as if their points were not on the line. I've long known that Team 7 is good at cooperating, but I didn't expect them to be so united. They actually trust Zhou Hao so much. Their teamwork and team spirit is really admirable. Dongran was shocked. If the team was facing a common enemy, he would understand. But now, things were different. This was clearly Zhou Hao and Cao Gongren's private battle, but they still supported it without holding back. This really shocked him. Cao Gongren was stunned for a moment before he smiled. I want to bet with you, but I don't know if you will be true to your words. Do you think they'll just let you bet with their points? That's right. Zhou Hao nodded and turned to look at the others. We agree. Zhou Hao, teach this bastard a lesson. Yunyan was the first to speak. Zhou Hao, just do it. We'll definitely support you. Fang Yu also said. It's just points. It's fine. Go ahead and use them for your bet. Yuan Cheng waved his hand and said indifferently. Zhou Hao, just do it. Zhang Yi was the same. Su Ling did not speak. She only nodded lightly, but there was no need to say anything. Did you see that? I am free to use the points of everyone in our team, Zhou Hao said indifferently. Cao Gongren narrowed his eyes and looked at Zhou Hao. This person had a master-level cultivation. Although he could tell that Zhou Hao had some tricks up his sleeve, they were all useless in front of a Grand Master. As for losing, he had never even considered it. After all, he was a Grand Master and had the cultivation techniques and treasures of his family. It was too difficult for him to lose. All right, I'll accept your bet. If you lose, don't go back on your word. Cao Gongren said directly. If I go back on my word, you can punish me as you please. If you lose and you go back on your word, you're not allowed to blame me as well. At that time, it won't be as simple as a simple apology. Zhou Hao said indifferently. Do you think I'll lose? Stop talking nonsense. Let's begin. Cao Gongren was already impatient. Although in his eyes, this team might not necessarily be able to kill many mutated beasts, he was still very excited. After all, no matter what, he would still be getting more points. The others moved aside, leaving a huge area in the middle. Zhou Hao and Cao Gongren stood facing each other. Don't blame me for not giving you a chance. Zhou Hao, attack first. I can give you a chance. Cao Gongren said directly. Zhou Hao immediately smiled. Very well. With that said, Zhou Hao directly took out his saber. With a bang, his body suddenly flew away. His saber technique was superb. Although his cultivation was only at the master level, even ordinary supernatural experts could not handle it so easily. It was just that Zhou Hao's destructive power was inferior. Cao Gongren's expression immediately changed when he saw Zhou Hao's saber move. He did not expect a small elite to have such a saber technique. Although he had always known that Zhou Hao from Team 7 had some ability, he did not care at all. After all, Team 7 was so weak. This Zhou Hao must be slightly stronger than the others. However, when he saw Zhou Hao's saber technique, he was shocked. Your saber technique is not bad, but you're too weak. It's too wasteful for you to use this saber technique. Cao Gongren retracted his gaze and immediately sneered. His aura rumbled, vaguely accompanying the power of lightning. I'll let you see my Cao family's lightning technique and let you see what a supernatural cultivation technique is like. After Cao Gongren finished speaking, lightning immediately spread out. The aura was powerful and the surrounding was filled with the power of lightning. It was green and white, instantly turning the 100 meters around him into a land of lightning. He stomped his foot fiercely and immediately shot forward. A lightning spear condensed in his hand and he attacked Zhou Hao fiercely. Seeing this, the expressions of everyone present changed, and their hearts instantly rose to their throats. Chapter 386, Too Weak. The two of them instantly fought. Although Cao Gongren was a despicable person, it had to be said that he still had some ability. The Cao family's lightning cultivation technique indeed had its unique points. The lightning cultivation technique increased both his destructive power as well as his speed. It was an extremely special cultivation technique that required a special physique. Of course, it was not that Cao Gongren had activated this physique like how Su Ling activated the ice muscle body. Instead, in order to be compatible with this cultivation technique, the martial artists of the Cao family had been tempered with lightning since they were young. This also led to their physiques being changed by lightning since they were young. After doing this, they were able to improve by leaps and bounds when cultivating the Cao family's cultivation technique. However, he was still no match for Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao also knew how to use the power of lightning. However, in order to prevent others from recognizing that he was President Zhou Hao decided not to use it. However, Zhou Hao could still use it if he wanted to. Although Cao Gongren is not a good person, I have to admit that he's still quite impressive. The strongest person in Team 2 is definitely not weak. At this moment, Yuan Cheng couldn't help but say. Humph, do you think Zhou Hao will lose? Yun Yan immediately said angrily. That's not what I meant. Zhou Hao's combat talent is second to none, and his saber technique is even perfect. However, I'm just worried that Cao Gongren is too powerful. It will also be different from fighting a mutated beast. After all, mutated beasts don't have any intelligence while Cao Gongren does. Yuan Cheng hurriedly said. What he said was not unreasonable. Although humans had inferior cultivation levels compared to mutated beasts, their intelligence was still superior. However, a duel between humans was different. In a duel, they could only rely on their true strength. If they used their wits, they probably wouldn't be able to achieve much. I believe in Zhou Hao. He will definitely win. He's just a grandmaster. Zhang Yi trusted Zhou Hao completely. Although I also want to think so, judging from the current situation, although Zhou Hao's combat talent is impressive, his destructive power seems to be inferior to Cao Gongren's. Moreover, as you can see, Cao Gongren's cultivation technique is very compatible with his physique, making it seem effortless. At this moment, Fang Yu spoke and emphasized the main point. Su Ling also nodded. However, she did not believe that Zhou Hao would lose. The reason was not because she trusted him blindly, but because she knew that Zhou Hao had a cultivation technique that could forcefully increase his cultivation. Once Zhou Hao forcefully increased his cultivation to be the same as Cao Gongren's, Cao Gongren would not be his match. Zhou Hao's combat talent was very high. In addition, his Dao techniques were superb. He was not someone Cao Gongren could compare to. Cao Gongren's current advantage was that his cultivation level was higher than Zhou Hao's. Other than that, there was nothing else. Dong Ran watched this battle from the side. In the beginning, he did not think much of Zhou Hao, but now, he was very shocked to see the two of them fighting back and forth. A master actually fought a grandmaster to a draw. This is too shocking. If Zhou Hao becomes a grandmaster, won't he be invincible against grandmasters? Dong Ran finally understood why the people of Team 7 trusted Zhou Hao so much. It was not only because of their team spirit, but also because Zhou Hao really had the strength to back it up. At this moment, even he could not guarantee that he could defeat Zhou Hao. While they were shocked, Zhou Hao and Cao Gongren had already completely entered a white-hot stalemate. Zhou Hao's Shadow 7 Sabers was very powerful and tricky, but Cao Gongren's lightning cultivation technique was also extraordinary. Under the powerful explosive force and destructive power, no matter how powerful Zhou Hao's Shadow 7 Sabers was, he would not be able to gain the upper hand. However, Cao Gongren was a grandmaster. How could he be willing to fight Zhou Hao to a stalemate? In his eyes, even if he did not instantly kill Zhou Hao, he should at least be able to suppress him. But now, seeing this, he felt that Zhou Hao was really a little troublesome. I was wondering why he dared to challenge me. It seems that he does have some ability after all. However, this is still not enough. Cao Gongren snorted and was also furious. He immediately shouted, and the lightning power around him became even stronger. The green-white lightning on his body also instantly turned dark purple. This dark purple color had a deep and heavy feeling, making Zhou Hao frown slightly. You actually forced me to use my purple lightning. I've underestimated you. However, since I've unleashed my purple lightning now, it also means that this battle is coming to an end. Cao Gongren immediately sneered and looked down at Zhou Hao with a domineering aura. It's the Cao family's lightning cultivation technique's purple lightning. I've long heard that the Cao family's lightning cultivation technique is very extraordinary. The green and white lightning is the most ordinary lightning. Above that is the purple lightning. The combat strength of this lightning is twice that of the green and white lightning. Above them is the black lightning. This black lightning is even more extraordinary. It's said that it was the lightning that fell from the heavenly tribulation and was refined by their Cao family to become a part of their cultivation technique. However, this black lightning can only be used above the supernatural level. Although Cao Gongren is a peak-level grandmaster, he probably still doesn't know how to use it. However, this purple lightning is probably not easy to deal with either. At this moment, Yuan Cheng spoke. His words immediately made the expressions of the others turn ugly and somewhat worried. This Cao Gongren is really impressive. He even knows how to use purple lightning. Things won't be easy now. Zhang Yi couldn't help but say. However, Su Ling still did not care and had a calm expression. On the other hand, Dong Ran took a deep breath. He knew that since Cao Gongren had used the purple lightning, this battle should be over soon. The battle did indeed seem as if it was progressing according to Dong Ran's thoughts. Purple lightning filled Cao Gongren's body as a meter-long spear condensed in his hand. It was awe-inspiring and its speed soared, leaving behind after-images in the air as it bombarded Zhou Hao. You're unable to resist this attack at all. Zhou Hao, admit defeat. Otherwise, don't blame me for injuring you. Although Cao Gongren said this, he did not hesitate at all. Instead, he became even more ruthless. Zhou Hao had repeatedly contradicted him and even dared to challenge him. How could he not teach this person a lesson? Therefore, he did not stop. Zhou Hao stood there without moving. It was unknown if he was scared silly or something, but when Cao Gongren saw this, he laughed. "You ignorant thing, are you afraid? Unfortunately, it's too late. Zhou Hao, you've lost." He roared angrily and stabbed out with his spear. This thunderous sound was very powerful. In his opinion, Zhou Hao would definitely be severely injured from this attack. However, he soon discovered that Zhou Hao's hand had grabbed onto his lightning spear. "Hehe, I wonder where you got your confidence from. You're too weak." This scene instantly caused an uproar. Chapter 387, Victory. No one expected that Zhou Hao would be able to block Cao Gongren's full power attack with a single hand. Even if Su Ling knew that Zhou Hao was powerful, she did not expect him to be so powerful. Dongran's mouth widened as he was dumbfounded. That was Grandmaster Cao Gongren's attack, but it was actually grabbed by Zhou Hao using only a single hand? Not to mention them, even Bai Linglong, who had been paying attention to this duel, was stunned. Bai Linglong knew what was going on here, but she did not interfere. After all, this was also a part of their training. The entire human race seemed to be united, but there were still many conflicts inside. It was very normal for such things to occur between martial artists. Therefore, she did not care at all and allowed them to fight. However, seeing Cao Gongren's powerful attack, she knew that even if Zhou Hao was not injured, he would still need to resist with his full strength. But now, Zhou Hao had only used a single hand. This was too shocking. She could understand if Zhou Hao was a supernatural expert, but Zhou Hao was only a master after all. Cao Gongren was even more shocked. He was completely dumbfounded. This spear attack could be said to be his full strength attack, but it actually stopped in Zhou Hao's hand. Even he did not understand what was going on. "This is your full strength attack? Is this the Cao family's purple lightning? It's only so-so." Zhou Hao looked up indifferently at Cao Gongren. At this moment, Zhou Hao's aura suddenly erupted. In an instant, he had reached the level of a grandmaster and perhaps even the level of a supernatural god-slaying art. Zhou Hao directly used the god-slaying art. Actually, he did not even need to use the god-slaying art. However, in order to fool everyone, he still used it. His cultivation level rose steadily and instantly reached the peak of the grandmaster level. He even came close to reaching the supernatural level and had a trace of supernatural strength. Therefore, it was completely normal for him to grab the lightning spear with one hand just now. The genius of the Cao family and the leader of Team 2, "You're really too weak." Zhou Hao sneered and exerted strength in his palm. The lightning spear directly shattered in Zhou Hao's hand. Cao Gongren's expression changed drastically. He looked at this scene in disbelief. Zhou Hao was clearly only a master. How did he suddenly become a grandmaster? Moreover, he was a grandmaster who had already taken half a step into the supernatural level. How was this possible? Although he did not dare to believe it, this was what reality was. Zhou Hao casually crushed the purple lightning and looked at Cao Gongren with a faint smile. If this is the so-called cultivation technique of a genius and the strongest ultimate technique, then sorry, you've lost. Zhou Hao spoke slowly and raised his saber. At this moment, the saber neighed, and a powerful fluctuation that was like a suppressed wild beast exploded with a bang. In the next second, countless saber shadows filled the sky. Shadow 7 sabers. It was still the Shadow 7 sabers. However, this time, the Shadow 7 sabers was no ordinary Shadow 7 sabers. Instead, it carried the cultivation of a grandmaster. If this was unleashed onto Cao Gongren knew that he wouldn't be able to get away with it. Looking at the dense saber shadows, he was instantly stunned. Zhou Hao looked at him and said indifferently, "It's not too late to admit defeat now. Otherwise, although this saber technique can't kill you, it's still easy for you to be severely injured." As soon as he finished speaking, Cao Gongren's expression was extremely ugly. He was a member of the Cao family and the leader of Team 2. He was a true elite of the human race. He was definitely not something a small figure like Zhou Hao could compare to. "I, Cao Gongren, am a martial artist of the Cao family and a genius of the Cao family. I've been practicing martial arts since I was 3 years old. Ever since I was young, I've been tempering of the power of lightning. I was only able to cultivate the purple lightning because of my talent. As for you, you're just a country bumpkin who came from a small place. You don't have any background or resources, but you actually won against me. I'm unwilling to believe this." Cao Gongren immediately roared, but his roar was useless. This was because the saber shadow's aura surged with a sharp intent. Without any hesitation, it slashed down at Cao Gongren. "If you don't admit defeat, I'll have to finish you myself." Zhou Hao snorted. Those saber shadows were endless, and every one of them carried the aura of a grandmaster. Cao Gongren's heart skipped a beat, and he immediately felt a sense of danger. He knew that he was unable to resolve the situation with this attack. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and shouted even if he was unwilling. "All right, stop. I admit defeat." This scene surprised the others. They thought to themselves that this Cao Gongren was really gutless. Seeing that he couldn't win, he instantly admitted defeat. However, now that he had admitted defeat, things were also easier. Everyone also heaved a sigh of relief. Zhou Hao smiled and put away his saber aura. He landed on the ground and looked at Cao Gongren. He said indifferently, "Since Mr. Cao has admitted defeat, then fulfill your promise and apologize to our Yunyan." Zhou Hao's words made Cao Gongren's expression turn extremely ugly. It was as ugly as it could get. However, he had already agreed. If he went back on his word, he would probably be perceived poorly for the rest of his life. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and took a deep breath. "All right, I apologize. Yunyan, I'm sorry. I take back what I just said." Cao Gongren could only bite the bullet and say, "Humph, I can't be bothered to argue with you. Since you've admitted defeat, then it's fine." Yunyan waved her hand. It was not that she was magnanimous, but she really did not have anything to say to this person. Even if he apologized, it was definitely not sincere. However, Zhou Hao still made him apologize. That was enough. Zhou Hao glanced at Cao Gongren and did not say anything. He watched as Su Ling and the others left on the flying goo insect king. Cao Gongren's expression was ugly. Dong Ran also sighed helplessly. "All right, brother Cao, let's continue to look for our other companions." Dong Ran did not expect Cao Gongren to lose so easily. Of course, he was also shocked by Zhou Hao's strength. This brat had suddenly erupted with such powerful combat strength in the end. He must have activated some secret technique. It seemed that they had all underestimated this person. If this person really became a grandmaster, they probably wouldn't be able to defeat him. Cao Gongren's expression was dark and ugly. "Damn, what a good Zhou Hao. I guess I've made a mistake this time. When I return, I'll definitely make you suffer." Cao Gongren said fiercely. Hearing this, Dong Ran became anxious. "Brother Cao, you won't use your family's strength against Zhou Hao, right? He's from the elite team which is under Heavenly King Zhu's supervision. If you attack him, I'm afraid you'll provoke Heavenly King Zhu." "Humph, what can Heavenly King Zhu do? My grandfather is an upper third-grade Heaven Realm expert, a truly influential figure. For him to deal with Zhou Hao, it's as easy as crushing an ant." Cao Gongren did not care at all and said indifferently. Chapter 388, The Power of the Thousand Feather Armor. Zhou Hao naturally did not know what Cao Gongren was thinking. At this moment, they were killing mutated beasts and accumulating points. With all the members of Team 7 here, it was naturally even easier for them than it was for the other teams to kill the mutated beasts. In this situation, the points accumulated very quickly, especially Zhou Hao. He had already accumulated a total of 1,000 points. Su Ling had more than 800 points, and the others also had more than 600 points. This efficiency could be said to be very high. The 7 days passed quickly. The moment the training ended, they were sent back. The entire square flashed with light as their figures walked out. Bai Linglong looked at them and nodded slightly. Not bad. Among you, a total of 28 people lasted for 7 days, but there were also 24 who couldn't last for 7 days. However, don't be discouraged. There will be many opportunities like this in the future. You still have a chance. Bai Linglong looked at them and waved her hand, causing a huge scoreboard to appear. Your points have been calculated. Take a look at yourself. With that said, everyone present looked at the scoreboard impatiently. Especially Lu Zimo from Team 1, Cao Gongren from Team 2, and the Grand Master level martial artists from the other teams. They were all confident in themselves. After all, they had killed many mutated beasts. However, when they saw the points, they were immediately dumbfounded. This time, there was still no sign of them in the top 6. The top 6 places were still all occupied by members of Team 7. Zhou Hao had more than 1,500 points, and Su Ling had more than 1,300 points. The one with the least points was Yuan Cheng. This was because before he joined the team, he had not killed a single mutated beast. However, it was still more than 900 points. However, Lu Zimo, who was ranked 7th, only had more than 800 points. This made them unable to sit still. Instructor Bai, did you calculate incorrectly? I only got 800 points from killing the mutated beasts. How could they get 1,500 points? Lu Zimo was the first to disagree, and the others were also unconvinced. Oh? Lu Zimo, you killed 3 Grand Master level beasts and 70 Master level beasts. You have more than 800 points in total. That's right. What's wrong? What's your question? Bai Linglong could not help but ask. I killed 3 Grand Masters and 70 Grand Master level beasts and yet I still only have 800 points. Zhou Hao has more than 1,500 points. Doesn't that mean he has to kill 6 Grand Master level beasts and 140 Grand Master level beasts? How is this possible? How can he kill a Grand Master level beast with his strength? Lu Zimo had an indignant expression. Although he said this, Cao Gongren frowned and did not speak because he knew Zhou Hao's cultivation level. It was the same for Dong Ran. Alright, I'll tell you how many Grand Master level beasts Zhou Hao and the others have killed. According to statistics, they have killed a total of 40 Grand Master level beasts and 1,000 Master level beasts. Therefore, these 1,500 points shouldn't be much, right? Bai Linglong said indifferently. What? 40? How is that possible? Lu Zimo did not believe it at all. I know you don't believe me, but that's the truth. By the way, I forgot to tell you that Zhou Hao didn't kill the beast alone. Their team killed it together. Therefore, the points were divided between them. Bai Linglong's words made them even more puzzled. How did they gather? This is the 13th spatial rift. The space inside is incomparably vast. That's right, what did they do? Did they cheat? I don't believe you, Instructor Bai. We request to watch the video. There would be comprehensive videos recorded for any training as evidence. This had always been kept just in case, and it was also for the purpose of providing materials for future teaching. Therefore, there was naturally a video. However, whether one wanted to watch or not depended on the other party's personal wishes. After all, this was personal privacy. If you want to watch, fine. Zhou Hao, will your team allow them to watch? Bai Linglong asked directly. Zhou Hao did not think much of it and nodded. It's fine, you can let them watch it. Instructor Bai, can we go back and rest now? Bai Linglong nodded and said, all right, you guys can go back first. Otherwise, if the others question Team 7, they can stay behind to watch the recording. Hearing this, everyone from Team 7 returned to the dormitory. On the other hand, the others were watching the recording intently. They did not think much of it at first, but when they saw Zhou Hao use the Flying Goo Insect King to find his other teammates and finally gather them, their mouths gaped open. They did not expect such a thing to happen. After that, they also saw the battle between Cao Gongren and Zhou Hao. When they saw Zhou Hao defeat Cao Gongren, they couldn't believe it. Especially Luzimo, whose eyes widened. He originally thought that Cao Gongren was his strong rival, but he did not expect Zhou Hao to finish him off. This person was too powerful. Alright, that should answer all your questions, right? Although Zhou Hao seems to be weaker than you guys, he's actually very smart and knows how to adapt to the environment. Therefore, you guys have to learn from him. Alright, disperse. Rest for a day and continue training tomorrow. Bai Linglong shook her head, and her figure flashed and disappeared, leaving the other teams looking at each other in shock. Zhou Hao returned to his room and could not wait to take out the 1000 feather armor. The armor had already recovered to 100%. However, he was currently in the 13th spatial rift and was unable to try it. At this moment, he took out the 1000 feather armor and did not immediately put it on. Instead, he used the Golden Crow escape technique and directly arrived in the 12th spatial rift. The 13th spatial rift had already become a human training base with surveillance equipment installed everywhere. Zhou Hao did not dare to do this in public. However, the 12th spatial rift was different. The interior of the spatial rift was still filled with mutated beasts. When Zhou Hao appeared here, he found a secret place and directly put on the 1000 feather armor. In an instant, countless feather-like scales condensed on the 1000 feather armor, covering Zhou Hao's body and sticking close to him. This feeling was even more comfortable than ordinary armor. Moreover, he did not feel anything when he wore it. It was very light. Zhou Hao looked at himself. He was completely covered from head to toe. His entire body emitted a silver glow, making him look a little high profile. Little you, you've already recovered. Can you introduce your current state and abilities? Zhou Hao asked. Little you immediately sent a large pile of information into Zhou Hao's mind. Zhou Hao was also shocked when he saw this information. It can resist a full power attack from a third-grade Heaven Realm expert. Without being affected by the spatial rift, it can allow one to travel through space. It even has its own gravity domain that covers an area of 10 meters around it. Zhou Hao looked at the introductions and was stunned. He revealed an ecstatic expression. Chapter 389, Experiment. Zhou Hao was shocked when he saw this information. This was too damn powerful. Resisting the full strength attack of a third-grade Heaven Realm cultivator not being affected by the spatial rift and even has a gravity domain. This is just too powerful. Zhou Hao was very excited. With the treasure in hand, wouldn't he be invincible? Reporting to Master, there are 3 core functions to the 1000 feather armor. The first function is a super powerful spatial travel ability. It can ignore the effects of spatial travel and resist 99% of the resistance. It can increase speed by several times or even dozens of times. The second function is the gravity domain. The stronger the cultivation level of the martial artist who uses the 1000 feather armor, the stronger the gravitational domain becomes. With Master's current quasi-heaven realm cultivation, your gravitational effects are only multiplied by 5. Your range will also be limited to 10 meters. If you can reach the heaven realm, you will be able to increase the gravity multiplication from 5 times to 10 times. The range will also be increased to a 20-meter range. The third function is an increase in strength. Due to the gravity of planet Earth and your cultivation, you will be able to release 100,000 kilograms of weight, which is equivalent to 10,000 cosmic strength. Little Yu's voice sounded in Zhou Hao's mind, making him incomparably shocked. He did not expect that there was also an increase in strength. This 1,000-feather armor was simply a divine artifact. However, the 1,000-feather armor currently only has its core and the other modules are still missing. Therefore, the spatial travel abilities will be limited. Currently, the armor will only defend you against the tearing force of spatial rifts and your speed will not be increased. Since the third function which increases your strength is mainly supported by the other modules, it also can't be used right now. After Little Yu finished speaking, Zhou Hao finally understood. It was already very heaven-defying. Although the spatial travel ability could only resist the tearing force of spatial travel, it was still somewhat useful. As for the gravity domain, it was really a divine technique. It had to be known during a fight, the gravity domain could immediately mess up the other party's defense. And the opportunity would be given in an instant to decide victory and defeat. In a life and death battle, this could completely turn the situation around. At this moment, this is good enough for me. After all, if I obtain other modules, I'm afraid I'll become invincible. Zhou Hao was very excited. He was no longer a newbie and was quite knowledgeable about the various weapons and armors. In his senses, there were not many weapons and armor that could do this. This meant that the 1,000-feathered armor was definitely a divine artifact among divine artifacts. If he did not try on the 1,000-feathered armor, wouldn't it be a waste? Thinking of this, Zhou Hao thought of a powerful opponent. The Iron Bone Bear King. Although it was a quasi-heaven realm expert, its bloodline was special. Even if Zhou Hao fought with his full strength, he probably wouldn't be able to kill it. It was not that Zhou Hao was too weak, but that the Iron Bone Bear King's bloodline had already awakened and it was about to turn into the Silver Bone Bear King. Ordinary quasi-heaven realm experts were not its match at all. This was also the reason why Zhou Hao could only work with it back then and could not fight it head-on. Although Zhou Hao had killed many quasi-heaven realm beasts, the Iron Bone Bear King was still guarding the Essence Energy Ancestral Stones. This was a problem. Thinking of this, Zhou Hao's body moved and he directly headed towards the place where the Iron Bone Bear King was guarding the 12th spatial rift. Although Zhou Hao did not use the Golden Crow escape technique, his speed had indeed increased by a lot. It was like he was a fish entering the ocean. In the blink of an eye, Zhou Hao arrived at the Iron Bone Bear King's guarding area. Ever since the last Essence Energy Ancestral Stone disappeared, the Iron Bone Bear King had been severely taught a lesson by the 100 Insect King. If not for the Iron Bone Bear King being strong enough, it would probably have been killed by the 100 Insect King. This also made the Iron Bone Bear King completely resent the 100 Insect King. On the surface, it did not say anything, but it was already secretly plotting. No matter what, it wanted to break through to the Heaven Realm and kill the 100 Insect King. Damn it, the Essence Energy Ancestral Stone Mine has been robbed. If that brat comes, what am I supposed to use to exchange with him? If I cultivate like this, I'll probably need decades to break through to the Heaven Realm. I can't wait. I wish I could immediately kill the 100 Insect King. The Iron Bone Bear King lay on its ground, feeling very depressed. However, at this moment, a strong wind directly transmitted over. The Iron Bone Bear King's expression changed and it immediately looked up. In front of him, a man in silver armor stood in the air with cold killing intent. Heaven Realm? Not much. Quasi-Heaven Realm? A Quasi-Heaven Realm human dares to challenge me. The Iron Bone Bear King immediately snorted coldly and looked at Zhou Hao in disdain. Little human, you dare to challenge me? Do you think I, Grandpa Xiang, am an ordinary Quasi-Heaven Realm martial artist? You're really courting death. The Iron Bone Bear King could not be bothered to attack. It was currently focused on breaking through to the Heaven Realm and had no interest in human experts. He was not interested in killing or fighting the humans at all. However, despite his lack of interest, Zhou Hao was still interested. He had come to test how powerful his 1,000-feather armor was. Therefore, he could not be bothered to waste his breath and directly attacked. His quasi-heaven realm cultivation exploded with a bang, and he was incomparably valiant as he slapped towards the Iron Bone Bear King. The Iron Bone Bear King did not expect this human brat to be so bold to challenge it. It was immediately furious. "You're courting death!" It roared as a huge force surged out towards Zhou Hao. "Gravity domain!" Zhou Hao shouted in his heart. Immediately, the 1,000-feather armor emitted an invisible wave of light that instantly condensed around 10 meters, enveloping the Iron Bone Bear King. Just as the Iron Bone Bear King was about to slap this human little guy to death, a strange fluctuation suddenly enveloped it, causing its body to sink and almost lose its balance. The speed of this palm also decreased, and its strength was also mostly negated by this gravity domain. Zhou Hao's palm landed directly on his body, sending the huge Iron Bone Bear King flying. This scene shocked Zhou Hao greatly. How powerful! When this gravity domain is used, it can reduce his speed and even resist a portion of his strength. It's simply a divine technique. Zhou Hao was overjoyed. He was simply excited. The Iron Bone Bear King was beaten to the ground. Although it did not receive any injuries, it was still depressed. "You brat, what are you doing? How did you affect my movements?" The Iron Bone Bear King's expression also became solemn. It was not stupid at all. This human was very powerful, so powerful that even it wanted to retreat. However, Zhou Hao ignored him and pounced forward again. He wanted to test this 1,000-feather armor. The Iron Bone Bear King roared angrily. Seeing that Zhou Hao was unwilling to give up, it was furious. The hair on its entire body instantly turned white, and its strength instantly exploded. It punched out fiercely. Zhou Hao did not dodge at all and allowed the bear's fist to hit his body. Chapter 390, Powerful. Boom! A huge explosion sounded. Zhou Hao's body exploded and he fell to the ground. A huge pit was created in the ground. The Iron Bone Bear King sneered. It originally thought that this brat had some ability, but it did not expect that it would be able to get a direct hit on this brat. His strength was not a joke. The defense of humans was low to begin with, and it was also impossible for them to resist external forces with their armor. However, when their attacks landed on their bodies, it was impossible for them to resist. To put it bluntly, the armor could only resist a superficial external force. However, under the pouring strength, most of the strength would still pass through the armor and land on the body. And this strength was not something humans could resist at all. However, Zhou Hao patted the dust off his body and stood up. His eyes were filled with shock. The punch just now was to test the defensive strength of the 1,000-feather armor, and the effect just now was simply unbelievable. Although the Iron Bone Bear King's full-strength attack was used on Zhou Hao, 99% of the strength was absorbed by the 1,000-feather armor. Although Zhou Hao had been thrown into the deep pit, it did not affect him at all. Not a single bit of strength seeped through the 1,000-feather armor. How powerful! This defense can definitely resist a third-grade Heaven Realm expert. Zhou Hao was extremely shocked and incomparably excited. With this 1,000-feather armor, won't I be invincible? Other people won't be able to beat me, but I can still affect their combat strength. This is simply a divine technique. Zhou Hao could not help but praise again. He was not just praising the armor for the sake of it, but this 1,000-feather armor was really powerful. Zhou Hao stood up and his body immediately soared into the sky again. This scene stunned the Iron Bone Bear King. If my attack landed directly, even a Heaven Realm expert would be injured, right? Why is he acting as if nothing happened? The Iron Bone Bear King had just used its bloodline power. His attack just now would even be able to injure an ordinary Heaven Realm expert. However, Zhou Hao still resisted it. Zhou Hao laughed and was too lazy to say anything else. Iron Bone Bear King, you're very powerful, but today, you'll die in my hands. The Iron Bone Bear King was so powerful that Zhou Hao would definitely obtain a lot of points by killing it. Moreover, the corpse of the Iron Bone Bear King could also be sold for a lot of Heaven Dao coins. When the Iron Bone Bear King heard this, it snorted coldly. It did not believe that a quasi-heaven realm human martial artist could defeat it. Therefore, without any hesitation, its mountain-sized body moved. That huge palm carried endless power as it ruthlessly punched in Zhou Hao's direction. Zhou Hao sneered and directly used the gravity domain. Under this domain, the Iron Bone Bear King's speed directly became slower. Not only that, but its strength was also restricted. As for Zhou Hao, while his defense was already shocking, his strength was also much stronger than ordinary quasi-heaven realm experts. It could be said that he had suppressed the Iron Bone Bear King once again. The Iron Bone Bear King was beaten until it covered its head and ran like a rat. It was instantly in a sorry state. Big brother, stop fighting, stop fighting. You win, all right. The Iron Bone Bear King instantly cowered. It did not want to die. It had yet to become a Heaven Realm expert and had yet to kill the 100 Insect King. How could it die? Zhou Hao immediately found it funny. This Iron Bone Bear King was so big, but it actually began to beg for mercy like a child. For a moment, Zhou Hao found it a little difficult to kill it. Iron Bone Bear King, as a quasi-heaven realm expert of the foreign races, you actually begged me for mercy. Aren't you embarrassing your foreign races? Zhou Hao could not help but ridicule. So what if I lose face? It's better than losing my life. The Iron Bone Bear King did not feel ashamed at all. Instead, it felt that it would be fine even if it lost its underpants, let alone losing its face. But I want to kill you in exchange for military credit, Zhou Hao couldn't help but say. What's so good about military credit? What benefits are the humans giving you? The Iron Bone Bear King could not help but ask. If I kill you, I'll get a lot of money. I can buy anything, Zhou Hao said with interest, not in a hurry to kill it. The Iron Bone Bear King immediately said, you can get those things after you kill me, but is it going to be useful in the long run? You're not even a real Heaven Realm martial artist yet. If you let me live, I can show you a way to break through. The Iron Bone Bear King could only throw out important information in hopes that Zhou Hao would spare its life. Zhou Hao was a little surprised. This Bear King was a little smart. He did not know if it was talking nonsense with him. Really? Can you really help me break through? You're still a quasi-heaven realm expert yourself. If you know how to break through, why haven't you broken through yet? Zhou Hao's face was filled with disbelief. Don't doubt me. Although I'm a quasi-heaven realm expert, I'm not a human. I know something that's very useful to your human race. The Iron Bone Bear King hurriedly spoke. Zhou Hao immediately understood that it was talking about the Essence Energy Ancestral Stone. However, since he had already obtained the Essence Energy Ancestral Stone, could it still have more? Oh? Is that so? I want to hear what you have in mind. Zhou Hao asked. The Iron Bone Bear King could not be bothered to waste its breath. Without saying a word, it directly threw Zhou Hao a few Essence Energy Ancestral Stones. This is called an Essence Energy Ancestral Stone. It can only be cultivated by humans, but us mutated beasts can't do anything with it. Why don't you take a look at this and see if it can help you? The Iron Bone Bear King vowed solemnly. It felt that all humans would be interested in this. It had to be known that there were no such high-level Essence Energy Ancestral Stones in the human race. Only mutated beasts had them. Zhou Hao naturally knew the value of this thing, but the Essence Energy Ancestral Stone mine it was guarding had already been emptied by him. How could he give him any more? Do you even have such a valuable treasure? Zhou Hao pretended not to know and probed. Yes, of course I do. I have all this. As long as you let me go, I'll give it to you. The Iron Bone Bear King immediately nodded and said. All right, if you give me enough, I can spare your life. Zhou Hao also said directly. After all, what if the bar was speaking the truth? Wouldn't he earn a killing then? I don't have it now, but I know where this essence energy ancestral stone gets produced. If you want it, I can help you get it, the Iron Bone Bear King said. Hearing this, Zhou Hao understood that this Iron Bone Bear King was definitely lying to him. After all, the essence energy ancestral stone mine had long been emptied by him. How was it supposed to get more? Iron Bone Bear King, stop teasing me. Don't think I don't know that the essence energy ancestral stone mine you were guarding has long been emptied. There's probably not a single essence energy ancestral stone left. Do you still want to use this to trick me? Zhou Hao said without hesitation. These words immediately stunned the Iron Bone Bear King. How did you know? Could it be you?